Smaller cars.
For English you have to pun in the exam, so the maths have been good for common essays in the exam, you have to pun.
May well be doing that, but I haven't thought about that at all. I think that's fine. I don't know how to test that either.
That was a good effect that it's throughout the whole school now. So we've got teachers using the same kind of language, and that's worked out. So if you say we're going to do a circle work, the kids know what it is. It's like you're going to understand.
That's picked up. How quick did that take?
First couple of weeks.
Mine was
We have like an illustrating narrating, so they've got to compare and contrast, or look at both sides of an argument, or compare and contrast certain gospel stories. You say, right, I want you to compare and contrast the resurrection in Matthew and Mark, so do it straight away. I found that.
What age group is that?
That's year 11, Key Stage 4.
Right.
You know, I just think they're very, very good at summarising information. I find it harder to teach something initially with the tool, but at the end, except for the circle map, you know what you know to begin with about something. But I'll teach something quite meaty, quite chunky, and then at the end we'll kind of like get the important strands out of it with a particular, you know, tree map or something like that. But I'm not sure whether that's summarisation rather than high-level thinking. But I found it perhaps useful in that way.
For English, they've got to do points, quotes, comments for essays. And if you have, so basically, if they write an essay, I've used it as an assessment task. So what they'll do is they'll go through the essay. We did like a sort of a model essay, and then we did an essay that was a D or E grade. And we tried to fill in the map, so if they'd made a point in a quote, they'd fill in the point there, the quote there. But if I hadn't put the comment, that box would have remained blank. And so what they'd actually done is that they'd got a map and they could see exactly where the gaps were, and they identified their exact particular need of where they weren't getting the grade by the gaps that they had in the map. And that worked really well actually, because they could see immediately where they'd gone wrong, and they knew that either they hadn't quoted enough or they hadn't made effective comments, so it worked really well.
We've used them in the tree maps, especially under the brace map, and we found it gets the depth and to be able to link other topics together, because I found especially with the GCSE, we sometimes do things in year 10 that they forgot or they can't link into the current learning. But by doing the brace map or a tree map, they have to access that information and link it all together so they get that extra depth.
I think the tree map's good for group work. Media studies today, we had like they had to look at a narrative of a comic, and you had to divide it into 4 different things, like audience, narrative, representation, and genre. So I had groups doing one strand of that, and then when we fed back, so they would only fill in one strand of the tree map, each different group had a different strand. Then when you feed back, you can kind of fill it in together. So you saving time as well?
At the beginning we all got the books out and we'd done these magical thinking maps lessons, but now it just became another plan to yourself to breathe more, in that I wouldn't ever think, right, I'm going to do a thinking map lesson today. I think, oh, there's an opportunity for me to use a thinking map. And it is just another tool. It's a good tool, but it certainly doesn't dictate how I teach.
Is it not based upon like what I know of my students? The majority of their marks on their AS example come from questions like analyse the causes and effects, impacts and reactions. I think my subject learns that to actually deliver in my lessons like that.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
We said at the start that we're trying to get a common language, and the kids know that if we're going to compare and contrast, or if we're going to categorise. So when I'm planning, I'm thinking, right, every time I want the kids to categorise, I want them to show their thinking using this same visual method. Every time I want them to break down the whole, I want them to use it in this way. So when I'm planning my lessons now, if I'm wanting them to break down the whole, then I want them to use a brace map.
The scaffolding things for them.
And the homework that I've got out of them this year compared to last year, when I taught the same lesson but without the scaffolding of the bubble map and the double bubble map, it's a lot better. And normally we would write vocab in the vocab book, linear, take it home, learn it. With the special needs, we did the circle map. They used pictures, and then that was their way of revising. And the vocab test results were massively improved. Yeah. So it wasn't a list; it was pictures and words.
Are we planning for them deliberately, or are we just seizing opportunities as they come along?
Key Stage 3 all curriculum changes for the school. I think it's likely not due to plan for it. To have also nailed down common thinking across schools as well, rather than just saying